Yesterday, we looked into the area of clear comprehension or the wisdom factor. The nature of this clear comprehension or the state of mind is to able to distinguish, to discern, to be precise and thorough into noticing the objects at the present moment when you are noticing it. So you define the objects. You take note of the object, if it is hot, cold, warm, rising, or motion, rising, falling, pressing, sensations, feelings, pain. All these things, you pay attention to them, and your mind can able to distinguish them. And when you can distinguish them carefully, then it begins to show you its true nature. When you feel something hard or something soft, they are not just hard or soft. They are more than just hard and more than just soft. In other words, the object will change. The object will sometimes get stronger, get weaker, disappear, come back again. It change from one to another. So this is how Vipassana we want you to direct towards that way. Now another area of development of this clear comprehension of this wisdom is to notice the intention. And intention and its follow through. So in a various position, when you change your 4 major postures, from one posture to another posture, you note your intention first before you move the body, or move the leg, or sit down, or get up. When we note the intention, automatically the mind will follow through. Follow through to notice the immediate movement. The immediate movement, therefore, when you notice in that way, the mind able to have a more continuous mindfulness, continuous clarity. Every effort that you make, it will accumulate. Yeah? You will accumulate to make the mind even stable, clear, less drowsy, less thinking. Also, another area of exercising this wisdom factor or this clear comprehension is also noticing our actions and also our speech. Yeah? Whether this action or this speech, are they helpful? Are they beneficial for the retreat, for the meditation, for the progress of the meditation? Sometimes a lot of times, a lot of things may not be helpful, may not be beneficial. But when you are at home, then it is beneficial, it is helpful, but not during in this period of time. When you walk, for example, again here, the walking is just meant to be walking. Not in between that we do something else, even to take a sip of water or go to the toilet, unless it is necessary. Unless they are necessary, that perhaps you are not feeling well, perhaps your throat is so dry right now, and then perhaps it is necessary. But if you can able to hold it, if you can able to withstand them just for a while until you finish the walking, and then only we do something else. So too in the sitting, we try to sit the sitting as best as possible to finish that hour. I know it's not easy for some of us, but if you can, try to go as long as you can before you get up. yeah? Or before you move your body here and there. Yeah. You see, when we do this, when we do this vipassana meditation, sometimes they are like, sometimes I look at it like, especially cultivating on this wisdom factor. It's like you go to a gym. Yeah? You go to a gym and you need to develop certain area of your muscle. Yeah. Perhaps you have your leg muscles, you have your core muscle or chest area, your body area. Perhaps you have a back area, back muscles. You have arms. Yeah. Different, different, uh, different exercises is needed. Different exercises are needed to exercise on different areas of the muscle. So too, when you develop vipassana, also the same thing. Yeah. It is not just single area that you develop everything. There are different area that you have to be skillful in order to develop that particular area. Just like, as I said, you be skillful in noticing the intention, the movement that follow through. That is one area. You have to notice when you have like an object, when it's clear, you pay attention to them to see their nature of what is going on. That is another area. Another area is where you have to take notice of the um, activities, whether they are beneficial or not beneficial to you. Yeah. Although right now we say it's beneficial or not beneficial, but below it, it's actually whether it is wholesome or unwholesome, rather than just beneficial or not beneficial. Because a lot of our actions is, of course, is triggered by our thoughts, and our thoughts can be connected with something wholesome or something unwholesome. Yeah. Even in vipassana, again, as I said, just like yesterday, even something that is wholesome, it may not be necessary helpful or beneficial even right now. For example, doing a lot of service work, a lot of chanting, a lot of whatever it is, which is not meditation. Yeah. So these are the number of this area. Now tonight we're going to look into another area which is also equally important for vipassana meditation. Yeah. Equally important because if you take the wrong object, then that's it, your meditation. So tonight we're going to look again. The mind is able to distinguish what is the suitable objects for vipassana retreat or for vipassana meditation, and what is not suitable for vipassana meditation. That also a yogi must able to distinguish them and know which other object should you take up and which object should you let go. Even though how enticing, how desirable those objects are. Yeah. You see, when we start off with this retreat, we start off with this meditation. Many times, as I said, don't go into the story. Don't go into the history. Don't go into the planning. Don't go into whatever that your mind creates. Don't go into it. You go into it, you lost mindfulness. And you can see that for after, what day is today? Today is Monday. So you have been seeing it like on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah. So when you go inside there, you get lost into, you get lost. The mind, the mindfulness, everything drop. So, as I said, these are not the right object. These are not the suitable objects. But the thoughts are very enticing. The thoughts are very interesting. Yeah. More interesting than the lifting, pushing, dropping. More interesting than the rising and falling. The planning, the memories, the places, the creation of the mind, all these things. Now, collectively we call it concept, conceptual object, concepts. Concepts here, we use it as the mind that is the one is creating them out. And they are the mind made. They are created by the mind. They are not something real in the sense that, for example, you notice pain, painful sensation. When you notice sensation, do you have to think about it? Pain. No, you feel it. You can directly feel it. You don't have to think about it. Yeah. You notice your sensation of hardness, softness, warmness. Yeah. Of course, initially we put the labeling together, but you can feel the sensation in such a way. It can be directly known. Yeah. So suitable objects can be directly known. Then later we're going to look into it a little bit more. Yeah. But now we're going to look into this conceptual object or concepts. This concept, although they are unsuitable for vipassana meditation, but they can be suitable for other forms of meditation. Yeah. Can be suitable when you are not meditating. So it's only when it's vipassana they are not suitable. Yeah. Now when it comes to concept, we live in a conceptual world. Our mind judge, our mind think, our mind analyze, intellectualized, conjecture, or whatever. So many words for it. The mind creates it out in so many ways. And when we live in this world, when we converse right now, you are also taking in the sound, but your mind projected, your mind very quickly, it understood what is going on. That able to understand what I say, that means the mind is able to conceptualize the sound that I'm coming out. If I start to talk in Mandarin, then some of you will be sound only, that you don't understand what I'm talking about. Then some of you may understand what I'm talking about. If I start to talk in Vietnamese, which I can't do that, then again some of you may understand what I'm saying, and most of you may not understand what I'm talking about. It will be only sound. Yeah. So again here, our mind projects it out in so many ways and it's so fast. Yeah. So too, when we want to do this meditation, we have to be very careful of this concept. As I said, they are very enticing. Everything that is created by the mind is not real, but it looks so real. You sit there, you meditate. Sometimes the meditation, it goes into like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. The mind sit down, it recreate the thoughts. and you forget about your meditation object. You're not mindful with your objects of your meditation. You go into the story. When you get in the story, you get trapped in it. And when you trap in it, the mind goes from one story to another story, the one from past to the future, to the past to the present, thoughts and everything. How long did you got caught today with your thoughts? Either you don't get caught with your thoughts, then you get drowsy. Maybe a little bit better today that your mind can be notice something better, but still there's a lot of mind is still get caught into the thinking. Yeah. So a lot of times you get caught into these thoughts. Yeah. When you get caught into the thoughts, it's not only thinking that arises, or not in these thoughts, but it also comes sometimes with emotional factors, their emotions. Sometimes the thoughts itself can be, you get angry with the thoughts, or you get angry with somebody that comes up in the thoughts, or the situation. You get angry, or you get jealous, or you get very happy, or you get sad, or you grieve. These type of thoughts and the emotions, sometimes they are so closely connected. Sometimes it's just only agitation of the mind. It's just random thoughts. Not much of an emotion, it's just neutral, but a lot of thoughts. Yeah. You can't even remember what you think about. Yeah. But the mind just desire just to think, because it's so habitual for us to think. Every moment of our life, we want to think, we want to understand, we want to analyze. And we've been doing that not just only in this life, in past lives, in other lives too, in future. We are so habitually ingrained into thinking. Sometimes we do not know how to stop it. And that is where a lot of time people go into a lot of mental problems and mental health issues, and then anxiety and so on. Because you got nowhere for it to stop the thoughts. Now, when we come to Vipassana meditation, first few days, as I said, whenever the thoughts arises, what do? First of all, first few days, you ignore the thoughts. You don't deal with the thoughts yet. You don't deal with the thoughts because the thoughts are so, they are powerful, they are strong, because your mindfulness hasn't come up yet. Your mindfulness is weak, your mindfulness is not there yet. But after 3 or 4 days, if you'll be starting to make the effort to be mindful moment after moment, or as best as you can throughout the day, then you have some mindfulness there. This is where, when you have some degree of mindfulness, this is when we can able to take the mind or the thoughts, or even the emotion, or later on we'll talk about it, to take them as an object, or as objects for meditation. Now you see, when we say, when you are sitting there and there's a lot of thoughts coming up, most of the time what we see is the thoughts that's coming up. But the mind itself, or the consciousness itself, is the one that is producing the thoughts, is producing this concept. It projects this concept out. So, in Vipassana, is that we have to catch hold of the consciousness that is producing the thoughts, not the thought itself. You understand what I mean right now? Yeah. Take, for example, you go to a cinema, you know. You go to a cinema, you have a projector, you have a screen. The projector projects everything out onto the screen. It projects people, it projects movies, it projects everything else. Yeah. While you are the one that is sitting there, you watch the screen, it feels so real, as if like the person is there. You cry, you laugh with it, but nobody there. It's just only projection. But it feels so real. It's larger than life. Yeah. It feels so real. So too our thoughts are something like that. It projects everything out and we analyze on this thing. But we forget about the projector. So to the mind itself, the same thing. It has that projector. The projector here is the consciousness. It's the thinking mind, is a thinking consciousness right now that's producing the thoughts, the concept. So as a Vipassana meditator, in order for us to notice the thoughts, then we have to notice actually the consciousness that is producing the thoughts. Because the consciousness, they are real. They are present object. But the concept are not real. So how are you going to distinguish that when you come to a meditation? When you come to sitting there? So in other words, if you want to try, let's say tomorrow, you want to try. Yeah. Let's say the thoughts arises. You sit there and then what you do is that as if like when the thoughts arises, you catch hold of the thoughts and the thoughts, sometimes the thought just disappear if you can catch hold of it. Well and good and let it go. Then you just continue with all the other objects. Fine. But sometimes the thoughts, it does not disappear. You catch hold of it, it still keep going and going and going and going and going. What you can do right now is that, for example, you sit there, your mind is alert, as if you are disconnected from the thoughts, as if there's a third party watching the thoughts. Yeah. Sit back. In front of you, maybe there's a memory of a situation, person or places that you notice. Then during this time, when you sit there, you just notice it as thinking, or memory. Or if it's a future, like planning, or wandering. Yeah. You put the label onto it. Now, the next thing is also to watch it, how these thoughts are passing through. Sometimes you sit back there, don't get involved into the thoughts. Even you see yourself, even you see your, say, your departed loved ones, your mother, your parents, or siblings, or whoever. Don't get emotionally don't get involved into them. Just take them as just another thoughts that is passing through. They are not real. You interpret them to be real right now. Even you see faces of your own mother, let's say. The mother is not there. It's only your thoughts is there. Yeah. So, what you should do in all these type of thoughts that arises, you got to sit back and you have to be careful not to get personalized or get involved into the thoughts and see the thought as just passing through. No, it comes, whatever, however pleasant or unpleasant thoughts, let it pass through. Let it pass through. You sit there, you watch. thinking, 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 or seeing, 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 then you let it pass through. Yeah. This is how you're supposed to watch the thought until the thought slowly and slowly it disappears and it fades away. And sometimes it doesn't fade away, it can linger a little bit at the tail end, but it's not prominent anymore. Then that time you can back again to your rising, falling, sitting, touching, or whatever. So you got to be careful. Yeah, notice the thoughts as it's passed through. You will see yourself sometimes. Yeah, you become the main actor inside the thoughts. You are the hero inside the thoughts. You are doing everything. You can create everything out. But again, here, with the help of the mindfulness, you have to learn to disconnect. Even you see yourself inside there as just passing thoughts. Can do that. Yeah. It's not easy because as I said, a lot of times we personalize on our thoughts. We identify everything inside there because this is how we live our life. But in Vipassana is to disconnect from it, and yet we just observe as it passes through. Then here you begin to slowly to notice the consciousness that is passing through, together with the image is still there. They're still there. So don't worry about the image is that yet. Sooner or later, if your mindfulness gets stronger, these type of thoughts become less. I've seen yogis again and again. After progress for some time, they sit for 1 hour, very little thoughts. Even the thoughts come in just for a few seconds. Not minutes, not 30 minutes, not whole hour that you get dragged into it. Just a few seconds that the moment you notice it, it kind of disappear. That shows how continuous the mindfulness can go. But initially, it's difficult. You cannot do like that. You have to take note of the thoughts. So this is you pay attention to the thoughts. However that you plan and so on, don't get into the story. The moment you go into the story, that's it. Mindfulness just cut from there. And the moment you come out and you notice the thoughts are passing through, thinking, planning, then mindfulness come back again. During this noticing these thoughts, sometimes there will be emotional states come in together with the thoughts. As I said earlier on, there can be sadness, can be anger, can be lust, can be desire, can be sensual desire, a lot of things. It can be connected with the thoughts. Sometimes it's just not one, but multiple factors, we call it the hindrances also, is connected with the thoughts. Yeah. So, what do you do now? Here, the emotions are real. The emotion that's connected to what is being projected, but the emotions are real. You feel it, you feel the anger, you feel the grief at that moment of time. You feel the aversion, you feel the desire. Those are real. But the projection of the mind, again, as I said, they are not real. So here, when the emotion arises, you have to take note of that emotion too. Say, for example, you see the faces of mother, the departed mother, it arises. Then emotion arises together with it. So now, let's say the sadness arises. The sadness arises, now you have to watch sadness. And the sadness can be very strong, very powerful, very overwhelming, because this is how we always do it. Anything that is connected, loved one to us, then the tears will come out. We are affected by the emotions. Yeah. So here, you watch that emotion. You watch that emotion, notice it as grief, sadness, sadness, sadness. Or on another opposite, perhaps you see something happy, something joyful of the past. Then again, you have to notice joyful, 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 or thinking, thinking, or history, memory, 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 joyful, joyful, joyful. To note them as they are, yeah, until these thoughts slowly begin to fade away. Yeah. So you got to watch them. Yeah. It is not easy. It is not easy, but you have to try. Sooner or later, when you do this vipassana meditation, you have to notice the thoughts. You cannot run away from the thoughts. Next retreat you come in, you think you have no thoughts. You think you are free from the thoughts. How many retreats some of you have come? Still, you have to deal with the same thing. But you deal with it with a better skill. And that is different. We are not here to suppress the thoughts. We are not here to suppress any memory. We are here to just watch the memory, and sooner or later also, with that strong mindfulness, we can able to overcome a lot of our unwholesome mental states, anger, sadness, jealousy, desire. And the mindfulness can able to overcome them. Until next time, whatever memory or whatever thoughts that arises that used to give you a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, a lot of grief, this time you're still able to remember them, but you're free from grief. You're free from sadness. You're free from those things. Your mind is so much more calmer, so much more at ease. Then you see yourself, you break, in a way, you kind of like break from that chain that hold you together. And some people, I've met that every time the thoughts arises, tears flow. Every time the thoughts arises, tears flow. So it's so difficult for them to break away from it. No, they call it the no healing, mental healing. So vipassana, one way it can help you to overcome those things, but you need strong degree of mindfulness. You need a continuous mindfulness. So you try to take note of those things. See whether it's successful or not. Then you come and report to me. See whether you do it correctly or not, All right. Also, in terms of like concept also, it's not just only you sit down, the thoughts arises, but it also comes in from our hearing and our seeing, smelling, tasting, our 5 external senses also. Let's say you eat, biting, chewing. Then you start thinking, am I eating vegetable or tofu right now? The moment you start thinking about it, it goes into concept. But that is what we do in everyday life. We want to analyze through thinking. Your job is, again here, is to notice the sensation, the movement, the taste, and if the thoughts arises that who is the one who will do the cooking, what am I eating, then the thoughts itself becomes concept. Some people, some yogis, they come, they are they have this the kind of they are like a chef. Yeah. They, instead of being mindful, they are more critical of maybe this one not enough salt. Maybe they should cook it a little bit longer, not so much fire. Then you keep on biting. They start thinking. Then it's not your job. Yeah. This is a job when you want to go back at home. Yeah, then it'll be very good. Yeah. So you have to put those things aside. You have to be mindful. You have to be thorough in the way of the sensation, the biting, the chewing, and so on. That is where you're supposed to take up. This is supposed to be an object. That area of thinking, analyzing, that is conceptual. So the area of concept and reality, or what is real, they are a very fine line. If your mindfulness is not able, or your wisdom factor cannot able to distinguish these two, a lot of times we will fall into the thinking, our habits, rather than being mindful of the sensation and so on. Then you walk around from one place to another place. The eyes wants to analyze. The eyes want to see. The eyes want to take in whatever that you can see. The moment you start seeing, a lot of us will the thought starts going. Such a beautiful morning, such a wonderful place over here. How good if I come back, and they start planning. Even sometimes you sit down or you are walking, you start reflecting on your suttas, or reflecting about life. You reflect about the things that you have learned. Those things are also, in a way, you go into a lot of concept. If you do those things too much, then it may not be helpful anymore. It becomes a lot of agitation, a lot of thinking. But sometimes some concepts can be helpful. For example, we are giving a talk right now. You understand what I'm talking about. Tomorrow, you put it into practice, then the concept is helpful. But if you keep on thinking about it the whole night, about the things that you have learned, or from the suttas and so on, then it gets very, the thinking becomes an obstacle. Even it's a wholesome thinking, even if the thinking may comes with compassion, may comes with metta, may comes with a lot of good thoughts, wholesome thoughts, but those thoughts also you have to put aside. As much as, even the wholesome thoughts you have to put aside, what more about unwholesome type of thoughts? So you have to have that strong will to put these thoughts aside. If you don't have the will, if you're going to get caught into all these things, caught into the concept. Now, sometimes there are some yogis, some meditators, they are well learned about the practice. They are well learned about the Buddhist text, and they're well learned about the higher learning of the higher text, or the Abhidhamma. They have able to understood in so many ways. So when they come to meditate, what happened to some of them is that they notice something, then they start thinking, so how many consciousness have I passed through, if I watch my rising and falling? Because they learn a lot from the Abhidhamma. They tell you about how many consciousness, they tell you about how many mental factors are there involved, what type of feelings involved, everything. Whether this is a earth element, wind element, fire element, they notice this rising and falling, they start thinking, what element is this? Rather than observing the actual object itself. So because they are so knowledgeable, they forget that this knowledge, this theoretical knowledge, you have to put aside as much as possible. And your job is just squarely pay attention to the object, to the reality, to the things that can be directly known. Many people, even in the well-learned people, well-learned monks or nuns or yogis, lay people, they get caught into these things. I'm not saying the texts are not helpful. The text can be very helpful. It's just you must know when to put it down and when to take it up. During Vipassana, this type of thoughts, you have to put it aside. If not, those thinking become a very heavy burden or obstacle for your development. Yeah? Another area of concept is we use this labeling. We use this labeling. Every lifting, pushing, dropping, you mentally label them. Then you take notice of it. Yeah? Now labeling is concept. Yeah? What you sense, those are real. Yeah? Now labeling here, these are very helpful. Although they are concept, but they are very helpful. It helps to direct the mind, especially for beginners who are not familiar with this practice. Then it directs the mind onto the object, towards the object, so that your mind can able to hit the object, or the noticing or the attention can hit the object. So we use the labeling to do that again and again. Every time you try to walk, sit, rising, falling, sitting, touching, you try to label as much as you can, even in the toilet or even in the washroom or in a dining hall. However you can, your job is to keep on labeling and try to do your best. And that labeling can be very helpful. Yeah. But sometimes for some yogis who are well more developed into this practice, then they have to slowly begin to drop those labeling. If you don't drop the labeling, the labeling will become hindrance to the yogi. It becomes a strong hindrance because the objects, the known objects, they can change or they can show its nature so much more faster than what you can label. So your labeling cannot keep up with your noting mind. Yeah? So that time you have to drop the labeling. Yeah? But beginners, try not to do that yet. You drop it, your mind will go into something. The labeling also helpful. Helpful for the beginners. Instead of you think of all kinds of things, you think of labeling. At least it's helpful in a sense, although it may not be the actual object itself. Also, on labeling is that you must not be too fussy about what word you use for the object. Some people are like wordsmith. Yeah, wordsmith. they are so particular about words. Every word has to be precise. Yeah. Let's say, you sit there and some pain arises. Then some pain arises. Then the yogi will start thinking, now, is this a pulling pain or is this a heart pain? Let me think. Let me see and let me think. It's not so hard actually. It's more like pulling, it's more like numbing. Should I label it as numbing? Should I label it as pulling? Pulling, no, it's not right, but numbing, but also it's not right. They are more particular about the words rather than observing of what is going on. Yeah. So don't worry about the words too much. If you kind of like generally, if you can able to, sometimes the pain itself or the sensation itself, you may not have an actual precise word for it. So don't go and stop there. Wait, let me think about it first. Think about it. Should I what? You're wasting your time and you start thinking again. Your job is just to make sure you pay attention to the object and just label it as if numbing, just note it as numbing. If it's already changed to a bit of pulling, if you still label it as numbing, you are still correct. Because you are still watching the sensation of the pain, although the labeling may not be that correct, it is okay. If you do right step, left step, right step, left step, then suddenly your left and right is all mixed up. Hey, wait, hold on. Let's go back. Right is right, left is left. I know. Yeah, sometimes we do that, because finally they are just sound only. If you can label it in your own language, you label in Mandarin, in English, then the sound is already different. Yeah, you can label it as ooh ah ooh ah. Oh, so it's okay. It doesn't have to be a word. It's all about directing the mind towards it. If you are, if you are familiar with it, with the sound and all that, then it's perfectly okay. So once in a while, if you don't get it right, don't become too anxious about it. Just okay, you want to get it right. Just okay, so naturally, just bring it, change the labeling. Then you don't get too upset about it. So the words are not that important. Okay. So the labeling, although they are very important, and especially even you have come for like many retreats, first few days is always important, because first few days when the mindfulness not strong enough, then we use this labeling to bring the mindfulness to its optimal level. From there on, sometimes we have to drop the labeling, sometimes we have to use back the labeling. Now the labeling itself, the you do it, you label it, the labeling has got its own energy. Yeah. And when you make that mental effort to label again and again, it also develops a mind to be vibrant, to be alert. And that also is helpful when you are sleepy, when you are drowsy. Because when you're drowsy, the mind has not so much of energy left. So in order to arouse the energy, so you make labeling there. You put some labeling there. Drowsy, 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 or sleepy, 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 blur, 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 whatever it is. Sometimes it can be helpful. It put the mind again. You re-arouse the mind again. Sometimes those things can be very helpful. So, take note of um, this type of concept. And you must able to distinguish this concept, especially for now. Try your best to not to fall into the thoughts. Any analyzing, any judging, any thinking, however enticing it is, you must make the effort not to fall into it. Now, if you cannot note these thoughts, sometimes, as I said, just ignore them completely. Come back to the body. Come back to the body. Feel the sensation of the body. The mind, when the attention lock onto the body or anchor onto the body sensation, due to its more prominent sensation around the body, it's easier for the mind to hold on there, to stay onto it. You go to the mind can be very tricky, very cunning. You think that you can able to deal with the thinking. Wait till it brings its bigger forces to come in. Then you'll see it's going to overwhelm you. Yeah. Just because you meditate for a few days, we think that we are gung-ho enough to deal with all of them. No, not yet. But at least here you try to deal with it. If you cannot, as I said, forget about them, come back to the body. This concept, the more that we go into this practice, this concept can sometimes become so real, as if like between what is real, what is reality, and what is concept, they are so closely connected, until sometimes you do not know which one is what. Let's say, for example, you sit down there. You see, when mindfulness getting stronger, clearer, continuous, it magnify everything. One of its character is to magnify your sensation so that you can able to notice what is going on with the sensation. It also magnifies the thoughts to make it very big. Like, for example, sometimes you sit there and the mind can create things are so real, as if like you could see people around you even with your eyes closed. It's like, for example, you sit down here. After a while, you can feel, or you could see in your mental eye, as if like people sitting beside you here and there. And then at times it becomes so real, you begin to think that you have a third eye. You think you have begin to have some power, psychic power, because they are so real. So real, becomes so wonderful. And the mind is tricking you right now, but you begin to believe that you have something with you after some meditation that you have gained. Sometimes some people, they could do like, they sit here, they meditate. While they're meditating, let's say now is at 9:15 or 9:20, they pull the mind back all the way to their home, and they could see as if like their husband or their wife or whatever they are doing there. After that, they get up from the seat, they write down, at this time, today's date, at this time, I write down there. So my wife is doing this, my husband is doing this, my children is doing this, you're writing down there. Finish the retreat, go back, then I try to verify with them. Did you do this and this and this? While at this time, so they thought that because the mind can project it so real, their mind can actually, they feel like they have this what we call a divine eye, that you can able to see whatever you want to see, however you want to see. And you thought that you have all this sight of devas, or you can see the deva world, you can see the hell world, you can see anything that you want to see, because the mind project it so clear. Now sometimes your thoughts are just blur, not so clear. This time is in 4K, your TV, 4K, absolutely so clear right now. So a lot of times people thought that also with this clarity of thoughts, they see these thoughts, they have not seen it before, so real. They begin to project that I can see my past life also. My past life, I could see this past life because they are so real. So what happened right now is that all these thoughts, no matter how real they are, the mind is interpret it. You interpret it long enough because it's going to happen again and again. If you're not careful, if you're not mindful about this type of thoughts, you begin to believe you have all these psychic powers and all this divine eye and all this sort of power. And a lot of people get caught into all these things. And it's so easy to get caught if nobody were to tell you. Because after all, you sit there, you meditate, everything become clear. So if you're not careful with this, it's so easy for a yogi to get caught. So many times, in the past I've moved around in the world, I've seen yogis get caught into it. And sometimes when you tell them it is not, they get angry with you. Who do you think you are? And it's okay. It's up to you. You want to get caught, I cannot do anything, because they believe that they already have those things. The whole spiritual journey has gone astray just because you think that you have powers that what is mentioned in the text there. There is not yet. So you've got to be careful. These concepts are not as easy as, not as simple as what we think it is. So therefore, any thoughts that you are not sure, any thoughts that in the past, don't judge the thoughts. Don't analyze the thoughts. Just let them pass through. Let them pass through. As they pass through, come back to the body again. Feel the sensation here and now. You come back to the body, you come back to the right way of doing things. The right way of doing vipassana. If you catch hold of the thoughts, you get caught into them, then you can caught for it for a long period of time. I've seen yogis, they get caught into this type of thoughts for 20 years. Then only they realize they are not doing something right. Something is wrong there. But 20 years has gone. But at least they realize that something is wrong. So we don't want to fall into that trap. So this one, we got to be careful. So this is another area of the mind has to distinguish between what is concept and what is reality. Yeah. So we stop here for tonight, and tomorrow we'll continue again for another talk.